Hello and welcome to the Prime Premier League podcast with myself and Doc. We have some very interesting topics tonight, and it's going to come to a surprise as Doc. So it's going to be a natural reaction for Doc tonight. Doc, I'm going to start at Old Trafford. Massive VAR issue at Old Trafford this weekend. Bruno's red card. Number one, was it a red card for you?
It's not a red card at all. I think if this is the day and age that we're coming to, that is a straight red card, then I think that we need 3, 4 red cards in every single game across the board. I think it's crazy. You can clearly see he slips, he sticks his foot out. Is it a foul? 100%. Is it a yellow card? If you want to give him a yellow card for that, I'm all for it. But a straight red, absolutely not. And it's not the fact that he's got the red card that's the problem for me. It's the fact that I'm a strong believer that VAR is there to get the right decision. I don't care how long it takes, personally. In an ideal world, I want a quick response and I want it done as quickly as possible so it don't interfere with the rhythm of the game and everything else. But when all said and done, as long as we get the right decision, I'm all for that. But when you see VAR look at it and still give him a red card for that, I think it's absolutely wrong, completely wrong. And I'll be amazed if Man United don't appeal it, and I'll be amazed if they don't appeal it and don't win the appeal. So I suppose only time will tell on that one. What do you think?
I don't think it's a red card. Do I think he knows what he's doing? 100%. Do I think the slip saves him? 100%. Because I think if he doesn't slip, he does what he wants to do, and he does get sent off. But he gets sent off anyway. But 100% he knew what he was doing. But I don't think it's a red card. It. I
The
hope he's
thing is,
suspended. I'd like to see him suspended because that means he'd miss the West Ham game. But yeah, I'm the same as you. I'd be surprised if it's not overturned.
the thing is, a red card in that situation is if, like, for dangerous play and everything else. Yeah, I've never known an incident yet where a player has been on the receiving end on a dangerous tackle and has ultimately come out and said that is not a red card. So the fact
Mm.
that Madison has openly said that's not a red card implies to me that there wasn't much contact there and he wasn't bothered by the tackle. So, I just think it's crazy. I think it's absolutely crazy, man.
Why do you think? And I'm going to use these words strongly. Why do you think VAR bottled it? Because he's
Honestly,
bottled it,
I
isn't he?
think the honestly, I think VAR are slowly but surely coming to a point where they don't want to highlight the referee's errors, and therefore they want to back the referee as much as possible, and they are not going to overturn that many decisions. And the problem for me is that is the complete wrong answer for having VAR. If you're going to not back, if you're going to just back the refs on every one, you might as well not have VAR and let the referee give the decision that he sees fit. For me personally, VAR is there to be the eye in the sky to get the right decision if the referee gets it wrong. And like I said, all this, oh, well, if is it a clear and obvious mistake? Who cares? Who cares if it's a clear and obvious mistake or if it's a mistake? If you can rectify a mistake, rectify it. I
And you
just
know
think
why
it's
I'm
crazy.
laughing? Do you know why I'm
Go
laughing?
on.
Because I've always been anti VAR. You know
Yeah.
I have. And I remember we've had many conversations about VAR. But now people are starting to see what I see ages ago. And and the best thing for me is I was trying to explain it earlier. If you do something wrong at work and your manager picks you up, not that the VAR is a manager, but that's basically you're there to correct something and you don't do it, you get in trouble. Now, ultimately, for me, VAR don't want to override a referee, but you're there to override the referee. See what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
I agree. I'm not going to contradict myself, and I agree with that sentiment. But the difference between me and you is you are anti VAR full stop, and you don't want VAR in our game, and you never wanted in our game. So therefore, you would have happily sat there, and the 50 decisions that VAR got right last season would have been 50 more errors.
Mm.
And you would have been happy with that because you're old school like me, where referees made mistakes before. I think we live in a day and age where refereeing a game of football in the Premier League is too difficult now. It's too fast. There's too much going on that you cannot expect a referee to get it right. And even that, forget the ref for a minute. Linesmen's linesmen's aren't even getting decisions right. You know, they've got like two jobs. Look across the line and tell me which way the foul, like which way the throwing is. And they can't get it right. Their flags are going up left, right, and centre. These officials can't be trusted to get it right enough to let them do it on their own. And ultimately, we'll have even more bad decisions. So as much as I don't like VAR with regards to them getting the wrong decisions, without VAR, we'd have even more wrong decisions. So I'm not going to criticise a item of technology that has eradicated 70% of the mistakes like it has since it's been here. Yes, we are still frustrated with the 30% that they get wrong. Yes, it needs to improve to a point where they only get 5% wrong, if that, in an ideal world. But at the moment, without VAR, all we would talk about is every single game would be spoiled by the referee's mistakes, and that's the concept that's why I think anyone that says VAR shouldn't be there that's where I can't agree with them. And the fact that 20 football teams had an opportunity to vote and only one voted for it to go, 19 said no, for me tells you everything you need to know. So I think people need to stop complaining about VAR. But that being said, VAR still making mistakes, and I think everyone needs to accept that.
Yeah, I've got a question for you later on in the show, but obviously, as we know, there were three major incidents this weekend. There was more than three actually, but there was three that I'm aware of that we're going to talk about tonight. That VAR has got wrong or hasn't done anything about it. Now, we're now going to move on to Newcastle and the penalty. Now, again, VAR hasn't overrid the referee. Do you know what I mean? Firstly, give me your thoughts on Anthony Gordon and the penalty. And secondly, obviously, I know most of us know that you are official, like you're an official, you're qualified. What is going through the referee's head at that split time? Because it's only a split second. What's going through his head at that time?
So first and foremost, I don't think it's a penalty at all. I think Gordon is like literally give him his due. That is a very good audition for the Olympics that will be coming up in 4 years' time. Because if he can do that in a swimming pool, he's going to be getting, a medal. I would have thought it was that impressive. I was very impressed with the dive. Like I would probably give him a 9 out of 10 in a swimming pool. The technique was perfect. The landing was perfect. Everything about it was spot on. The problem is we don't want to see that in a football game. But again, with football, these players have learnt a way of buying penalties. Now it's very hard to prove who makes contact with who when these players dangle their legs. I think personally it's cheating. It's
So,
as simple as I think it's cheating. I think you've conned an
yeah,
official, and I think it's cheating. But if the referee sees it in quick time, like he does, and he sees it that the goalkeeper's wiped him out, let's be honest. In our day, when we used to play football, 9 times out of 10 they're given as a penalty.
yeah. So again, why has VAR bottled it? Because I said earlier, if that was it, yeah, Newcastle don't get that penalty. So, do you think the home support has an impact on the decisions that these referees and VAR are making? And bearing in mind, VAR have got a TV and can slow it down.
I do think VAR are influenced by the occasion and the fans. I do generally think that, yeah. I don't think they should be because ultimately they're in a secure room. It shouldn't make a blind bit of difference to them. The referee, absolutely. I think over the years it's been proven where referees give them decisions to the home team, whichever way you look at it. If the home team's the goalkeeper, it's a no penalty. If it's not the goalkeeper, it's a penalty. So I don't understand why they do it, but with regards to that one, VAR can't categorically prove that which way it is. There's no factual information there that validates who's hit who. So if the referee gives the penalty, VAR can't interject there. They can't say that's a clear and obvious mistake. They can't. And that's why the players do it. If it was as simple as that, then you'd never have a penalty given for that, and the player would be booked for diving. But so I don't blame VAR on that one. I just think Gordon has, has done a pretty scummy thing. Personally, I think he's cheated. He's not the first that would do it. He's not the last that would do it. It's one of them things. But I think in that instance, he knew exactly what he was doing, and he's conned them.
Yeah, what did you make of the City performance in that game? Obviously, no Rodri, so we know he's out now for the season. Is it their first game without him in the Premier League? Yeah, I think it's their first game without him in the Premier League. That's obviously the Man City we're going to see. I know John Stones has done a press conference tonight ahead of their Champions League game, and he said that he wants to take on that Rodri position, why he's missing. What do you make of them comments? And what did you make of City's performance? I thought they were quite under par.
Is it their first game without him? I was under the impression that he was missing in the Chelsea game. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you are right. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he was missing in
but
that one.
since the injury, it's their first game, isn't it?
Yeah. So he's like, because there was no De Bruyne. No, there was no Foden and there was no Rodri in that game, I'm sure.
Mm.
But listen, I understand the concept of what people are saying. Rodri's stats speaks for itself. That when Rodri's not there, like they drop more points than when he's there. I get it, but I'm not buying into this whole talk of now Rodri's out. It's a foregone conclusion that Arsenal are the favourites or Liverpool are the favourites and City will drop more points. All they've got to do is get through to January. They'll buy someone else to come in, and they'll be back stronger than ever. So if it was over the whole course of the year and they couldn't sign anyone else, maybe. But I still think that City will still have more than enough in abundance to still be top in January and still buy someone in January and go even stronger. And I still don't think it's enough. I don't like this concept of when teams think that certain clubs are just a one-player team. Yes, he's very key. Yes, he's very vital. But
but I think
I just don't buy into it.
I think statistically, City are worse when he's not in the 11. That's why I'm saying that Saturday was a very below par performance from Man City, and he's not in that. Is it a coincidence, or is it this is the new Man City that we're going to have to look forward to watching? Not that free-flowing sort of Man City that we normally see. Do you know what I mean? I know De Bruyne he's injured as well.
Yeah, so, but don't you think though with stats don't tell you the bigger picture. If Manchester City win every single game when Rodri's in, and then they ultimately draw one game when Rodri's not there, the stats say that statistically they are worse off without Rodri. But the question that you need to ask is not are they worse off? Have they got enough to get the job done without Rodri? And I think personally the answer is yes. And I also think if you talk about Rodri going out of that City team, I still think Arsenal have got a bigger void without Odegaard. And yes, they've coped with it okay so far. And yes, they've got the job done by managing like the situation, and they've got the job done. But I still think Odegaard in that Arsenal team, with the squad they've got, is still a bigger loss than Rodri for City, me personally. I still think City have got enough in abundance in there. Obviously, they've got no De Bruyne at the moment. Foden's not playing. But when you get De Bruyne back in there and you get Foden in there, they've got enough going forward that I generally don't think it will matter. That's just my opinion. I don't think it will matter when it's all said and done. And just for the record, it's all well and good with people coming with the energy of without Rodri they're this, without Rodri with that. If City win the league this year and Rodri has only played 3 games of the season because he missed the first game and he got injured in the 5th game, what are you all going to say then? Where's your excuse coming from? Like, why haven't you won the league?
Yeah. What? Obviously, Pep made a comment in the week, didn't he? Obviously, he's called Arteta out on this dark arts, and he's also reminded Arteta that he was at the club during this 115 charges. So that's interesting. What did you make of his comments when they asked him about Rodri being out? Will it affect them in the title? And he said maybe because he's a world-class midfielder. What sort of impact would that have on the other City players?
I think it's common sense. I think if you ask a stupid question, you're going to get a stupid answer, and I don't think no one reads into it. I think unless you're deluded, or unless you're someone that reads the Sun newspaper and thinks that Sun newspaper is gospel, or ultimately goes on social media to get the answers to questions and think because you've heard something on social media it must be true. You ask a stupid question, you get a stupid answer. You've just asked the manager where the best player in the world in that position is injured, and you're asking him, do you think you're going to be weaker without him? Well, the answer is yeah, because if you go and get the second best player in the world, he's not the best player in the world, is he? Rodri is the best player in the world in his position. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. He is. But ultimately, the Liverpool wanted to buy a Rodri, right? Liverpool were heavily linked with a player to replace, like, to be their answer to Rodri. This is the same player that City are now being linked with coming in. So if they go and get him, if Liverpool wanted him to compete with Rodri and City go and get him, what's the issue? And just for
Yeah,
the record, when they go and get their replacement, next year they'll have two of them. So they'll be even stronger.
yeah, I get where you're coming from. I do want to give Newcastle some props because I thought Newcastle were excellent Saturday. To be fair, from start to finish, what did you make of the performance from Newcastle? I think Eddie Howe was tactically spot on.
Um, I don't listen. I think that was a very good performance for Newcastle because I don't think that they've been particularly good this season, even though they've been winning games. And the Newcastle fans that I've been talking about have sort of been suggesting that they're not out of second gear yet. I think that is a bit more of a Newcastle performance. But that being said, like I said, without the penalty, they didn't look that threatening to me. They didn't look like that they were ever going to win the game. Was it a good performance? Yeah, obviously you've got a point. So I'm never going to criticise a team that gets a point from City. So it's a very good point for Newcastle. But this concept of like, was Newcastle fantastic? Or did they make City? Like, did they match City? No, they didn't. City were under par. Newcastle turned up. They got a point. Take your point and be happy. But I don't think the performance was that fantastic, personally. The only thing I would say is only conceding one goal against City is good. So, maybe it was a good defensive performance to only concede the one. But like I said, you know, I don't think that teams like I don't think it's the same conversation where if you play a team that's under par, you don't deserve the credit of if you play that team at full whack. If you went and got a draw with City when they were firing on all cylinders, people would say, what an excellent point that is, what an excellent performance it is. But when you've got a City that's not the City that we know, you're not going to get the credit that you might think you deserve. But that's just my opinion. Like I
I think
said,
that's a bit
I
harsh.
think that City performance, I think there's a few teams that could have matched them on the day.
I thought, yeah, I think City have been firing all cylinders though. I think this obviously Rodri's out and De Bruyne was out, but this is a City side that have still scored a lot of goals. Still a Haaland that scored 10 in 4 or 10 in 5. Do you know what I mean? They kept him quiet for 90 minutes. So I'd probably say it was good performance with Newcastle, to be honest. But can they keep it up? That's my question. Can they keep it up? We'll wait and see.
We'll see.
So let's give the chance for Arsenal to go level on points with City. Obviously, they went 2-0 up. Leicester got it back to 2-2. And then Arsenal nicked the game in the last sort of in injury time, the last 10 minutes. We know that there was an issue in that game as well. Calafiori should have received another yellow card, which would have seen him sent off. Give us your thoughts on that one and the part that VAR should have played in that one, if it should have played anything.
Well, you're stitching me up here, yeah, because you're asking me a question and you're asking me to say something negative about Arsenal after they've won a game. And you know, and I know that the Arsenal police will be out in full force. So before I can answer the question, I have to give Arsenal a compliment. Otherwise, I'm an Arsenal hater and the Arsenal police will be gunning for me. And when I go back to London, they'll be standing outside my house with posters and stuff. And so, yeah, please don't do that because it's not very nice. So, we'll start with the fact that well done, Arsenal. Brilliant. You beat Leicester Football Club.
Sorry, Doc.
You got the job done. It was a good performance from you. Big up, big credit. You got the job done, and it was a performance that you expect of a team that wants to compete. So, there's your props. Now for the nitty gritty. The first goal should never have stood in a million years. There's a foul on Vardy on the halfway line. The guy has dragged him back, and if he don't drag him back, Vardy holds the ball up, which means Arsenal don't get possession of the football. So it's a blatant foul. How the foul's not given is beyond me. And if the foul is given, Arsenal don't go up the other end and score the first goal. So, first and foremost, just for all you Arsenal fans out there that have had so much to say about referees recently and how corrupt it is and how much you want consistency, you all went shh when you benefited from it, didn't you? Not one of you Arsenal fans have had the guts to criticise that one, have you? No, because you benefited from it. And then the one that P's talking about when your left back is on a blatant yellow card and makes a blatant foul to stop Vardy attacking, who should have got a second yellow card and didn't get a second yellow card. You said nothing about that one as well, did you? Nothing at all. Funny this, isn't it? There's a bit of a pattern here, Arsenal fans. When you benefit from it, refs are amazing. When you don't benefit from it, you've got something to say that there's this vendetta against Arsenal Football Club. And you wonder why your fan base is slowly but surely becoming the most deluded fan base in English football. Yeah, speechless, isn't you? Because you know I'm right.
So, Doc, why didn't VAR get involved with this one then? Is it because it's a free kick? It's not. It's not a goal scoring opportunity. Um,
Well, they can't, can they?
the
VAR
referee
can't get
hasn't.
involved.
But why not? Surely the referee they could look at it and say to the referee, "Look, we believe that this is a second yellow, and evidently that sends him off the pitch."
They can't, can they? They can't be yellow cards at all. This is the biggest problem with VAR. This is what I've just touched on earlier. VAR should be able to interject on every single decision, and VAR's job should be that when the game is over and all said and done, we've got the right decision. But that's not how VAR has been brought into a game, and that's not what it's there for. And this is a perfect example where VAR couldn't interject even if they wanted to. There's nothing they can do about it. The referee has seen it, given a foul, chosen not to book him. Therefore, that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with everything you've said on that. I don't think I can disagree. I think Leicester give a good account of themselves. You won't hear me say that too often this season, but I think they give a good account of themselves to get it back to two. What a goal by James Justin, by the way, on the old volley there. What did you make of that one, Doc? You're right back on the old techers.
Great finish, lovely finish. Technique was spot on. With all due respects, to score from there, it needs to be a good strike against Raya at the moment because Raya is on top form. So that goes to show how good that finish is. I mean, no keeper in the world stops that. It's literally what we call unstoppable. Um, so yeah, fair play. Oh, just one other thing that I wanted to add. If the first goal wasn't given, yeah, which it shouldn't have been given, then when Trossard scores late on in the 93rd minute, yeah, that makes the game 2-2, not 3-2. And where was the 9 minutes, out of curiosity, for you to score the winner in that situation? Again, another thing that you've benefited from a referee that you'll say nothing about whatsoever. You had a lot to say when City scored late on, didn't you? But you don't have the same energy when you benefit from it, Arsenal fans, do you?
Yeah, and I spoke to a few Leicester fans on Saturday night actually, and they that went to the game and they struggled to see where 7 come from, let alone 9. But yeah,
100%.
again, we don't know what the referees are saying or doing, to be honest. But
So just to clarify, just for people at the back, With me, I'm consistent with what I say. If Liverpool fans was doing this, I'd say the same thing. They were doing this last year, and I pulled them on it. This isn't a vendetta against Arsenal Football Club. This is a vendetta against your fan base that have had so much to say over the last couple of weeks because you rightfully had two red cards that were thoroughly deserved because your players made mistakes, and you've crucified the manager, the ref, sorry, and you've had the audacity to say all these things about you want consistency. But now that you're benefited from the inconsistency, you don't say nothing.
Matty
What's
Kerr's
happening,
in the
Matty Kerr?
house with some eyeballs there. He's waiting. Um, let's move on to the Ipswich Villa game. I feel like there should have been a red card in that one as well with Sam Morsey. But before we touch on that, what did you make of Ipswich's performance the weekend? I know a lot of people have written them off. They're going back down, but they played a good Aston Villa side and managed to get a draw there after going. Well, they took the lead, didn't they? And then they went behind. But to show the character they showed to get back into the game, what did you make of it?
So first and foremost, I think Aston Villa Football Club is a football club that is going places. I think that everything about Aston Villa is ticking the right boxes. I think they've got a manager, a project that's ticking over nicely. They've got Champions League football now, where I think they'll be competitive. And I still generally believe that Villa will be in the top four again this year, which will be back to back. I think Emery is that good of a manager that he knows what it takes. He knows what a project is, and he's a manager that you want to see overseeing the project. So compliments to Villa. I do think that wasn't a particularly great Villa performance. I can see what people are going to say about Aston Villa because a lot of people are saying when the Champions League format kicks in, Villa are going to fall off due to the amount of games. And lo and behold, after their first game in the Champions League, they've gone and drawn a game that really we expect Villa to win. So I don't think it was a particularly good Villa performance, but I generally think it was just that. I think it was a bad day at the office for Villa and it wasn't a good performance. But I also think that Ipswich was very, very good. Now, Ipswich is a team that I backed at the beginning of the season that I believe Ipswich will stay up. I think that Delap for Ipswich is a very key player that will score the goals. That Delap looks a player. There you go. You said at the same time as me. I think that he is a player that he has got the quality to keep them up. I also think they've got a manager that isn't like the others where they've got, I think you've got a couple of categories there, yeah. But like a Martin who hasn't got no Premier League experience as a manager, I think that is what's going to cost Southampton. I think it's the gullibility that comes with the lack of experience. Whereas with regards to McKenna, yes, he hasn't got managerial experience in the Premier League, but he's worked for Premiership teams. He's worked with Premiership managers. He understands what it takes to be a manager in the Premier League. And ultimately, he's got a style of play that suits the Premier League. So I hope I'm right because I want to see this young manager stay in the Premier League for the foreseeable future. And like I said, I think Ipswich will stay up, and I think it was a very good performance from Ipswich. And I think that is what Ipswich will do this year. I think there'll be a few of these, and I think that will be the difference between them going down or staying up when it's all said and done.
Do you think though that everyone was expecting Villa to go there and win when it's number one? It's at Portman Road, and again, it's one of them old school grounds, isn't it? It's not a modern day football ground or what I call a modern day football ground, but so they're right on top here. Would you really? It's a tough one, isn't it? I'm saying, would you really expect Villa to go there and win? Because it's not a Villa Park, it's at Portman Road. It's a bit like it's buzzing, isn't it? It's only their second home game of the season.
I expect Villa to go to most grounds and win. That's how good I think they are at the moment. I think Villa, with all due respects, when Villa went to your ground, I expected them to beat you. So if I'm expecting them to beat you, why would I not expect them to beat Ipswich?
So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you saying Villa could be on a title charge this year?
No, absolutely not.
I'm just asking.
Not a title charge, but I still, like I said, I still think that Villa will finish in the top four.
Portman Road will be tough for teams to go this season. So, yeah, I agree with Matty there, to be honest. There's a question coming about Crystal Palace. I'm going to get you to touch on it briefly. Obviously, we have got the London show on Thursday where we're going a bit more depth. But Jake Evans, welcome to the show. He says, "What about Crystal Palace?" And then he goes on to say, do you think Palace will stay up? Just briefly give us a thing, because obviously
I'll
Thursday.
answer your question I'll answer your question quite briefly and quite swiftly. I expected Crystal Palace to finish in the top 10 this year, right? I don't think that we're going to necessarily achieve what my ambitions was of a top 10 finish. But that being said, I'm not going to go from a top 10 finish to a relegation and say that they're going to go down after 6 games of football where we've already been to Stamford Bridge and drawn. We've already got a draw against Manchester United at home, which, as much as Manchester United looked poor at the weekend, it's still Manchester United Football Club, and you still, if you support a small club, shouldn't expect to be taking points from Manchester United. We've drawn with Leicester, which is a team where Leicester need to be fighting for their lives, and ultimately, a team like us is an opportunity for them to get a win. So, listen, I'm not even going to entertain relegation battle. I just think that the fact that people are asking such stupid questions 7 games in is the issue here. Like, since when has a team been relegated? Like, in September? It's just stupid talk. These used fans are the same fans that told Crystal Palace we was in a relegation battle last year in February when Glasner come in, and we finished 10th.
Matty says Palace will finish around 12th. I know we spoke earlier about it, and you said that you wouldn't be surprised if it's around there. Matty also goes on to say, cool story, bro. But Doc, moving away from the weekend's football, I want to talk about Ten Hag, and obviously tonight we've just seen Bournemouth give Southampton an absolute pasting and all. So let's talk about, is it Russell Martin? Yeah, Russell Martin. How long do you think these two managers have got left, man? They look like the two that are going to go first, don't it?
I don't think necessarily Russell Martin's job is on the line, personally, because the owners backed Russell Martin last season before the playoff final, where they actually said that even if they didn't go up, that he's the man for the job. And I think that they would be absolute hypocrites if they do get rid of Martin now. Because, I mean, listen, football's like that, isn't it? We could probably go back loads and loads of quotes where the owners have backed someone and then chucked them under a bus. But I just think if there's any justice in the world, Southampton needs to stick with Martin and hope for the best, because I generally think that you could go and get Pep Guardiola in charge at Southampton, Sir Alex Ferguson is his number 2, and Ancelotti as the head of football, and they will still be shit. So I don't think it makes a blind bit of difference. I really don't. They've got not one good footballer. Like, I'm sorry to be the burden of bad news, but there's not one decent footballer in that squad. I don't think there's one player in that squad that anyone else in the league would want, and they haven't got enough. So why are we blaming the manager?
Matty says that he feels Potter might go to the Saints. Rebuild job for him would be a perfect with the amount of time he has had out of football. Jamaica, that one.
Yeah, but I'm going to say to you the same. I'm going to say to you, Matty, the same thing I said to Big P beforehand. If Potter's name's being linked with a Manchester United job, why would Potter go, no, thank you, Manchester United, I think I'm going to go off to Southampton? And more to the point, when Southampton go down, not if Southampton go down, but when Southampton go down, Potter's going to find himself in the Championship. So I don't see why Potter would scoop to that level. This is a manager that people are talking about the England job, the Manchester United job. He's just managed at Chelsea. It don't make sense for me for him to take a Southampton job personally.
I still think Southampton will go down with the lowest points. I said it to you at the beginning of the season. I'm going to stick with that one. But Doc, let's move on to Ten Hag, mate. He's on borrowed time, isn't he?
100%. Yeah, his time is up. Listen, I think so. I just watched the podcast just before we come live. I'm sorry, I'm lying. It wasn't a podcast. It was the interview after the match, where in the studio where there was Paul Scholes, Michael Owen, and Tim Sherwood, and everything they said, I 100% agree with. The Manchester United Football Club and the lack of identity they've got. How can anyone buy any players for Manchester United Football Club? That they should freeze all signings. They should stop making signings. They shouldn't bring in any more footballers until they know that A, they've got a manager that's going to stay, and B, they've got an identity and what the achievement is. And just to give you an example of this and what they said. Now, don't quote me word for word, but they had David De Gea in goal, yeah, a very, very good goalkeeper that was still performing week in, week out at Manchester United. They went and replaced him for this goalkeeper, and they quote, not me, as arguably the best goalkeeper in the world with a ball at his feet, right? Now, when you talk about arguably the best goalkeeper in the world with a ball at his feet, you would think that he's been brought in to ping these passes and get things ticking. He hasn't done it once. He's not done it once. There's never been a moment where this guy has used his feet the way that the others do. Like, there's no concept there. They're talking about like bringing in Xerxes and all this, and the list goes on and on and on. But the whole point is, there's no direction at Manchester United Football Club. There's no identity at Manchester United Football Club, and the signings that have come in, they're making up numbers, but they're not improving style of play or anything. So, for me personally, Ten Hag's time is up. There's no identity in Manchester United. He's had nearly 3 years to do so. It's on him, no one else. And he needs to go. And I don't think these players want to play for him. I really don't.
Doc, let me give you some insight into Ten Hag's transfer policy. Anthony, 95 million euros. Casemiro, 70 million euros. Mason Mount, 65. Martinez, 57. Anana, 52. Malacia, 15. Hoyland, 85. Delit, 45. Xerxes, 42. Euro, who we're yet to see, 62. Mazzarari, 17. Ugarte, 50 million. Ten Hag's spending in his time at Man United is £709 million.
And also on top of that, he's had the emergence of Kobe Mainu, which is a player where if you wanted to go and buy a Kobe Mainu, that would cost you 30, 40 million pounds to have someone come in there. So he's had everything that he needs. There's no excuses. Growing up, goalkeepers were good with his feet. He was rubbish. He was the rubbish boy just getting goal. Growing up, keepers were good with his feet. He was the rubbish boy.
It's meant to say wasn't. Sorry, Doc.
Wasn't.
So
Yeah, well,
growing
that's
up,
that's the
goalkeeper
point.
wasn't good with his feet.
That's the point. But the concept has changed. Every football club wants a goalkeeper that can play with their feet. But Manchester United, when their goalkeeper gets the ball at his feet, what's he going to do with it? There's no options there. You haven't got a Haaland up top where you can ping the ball up. He's going to hold it. You've now got this goalkeeper that's going to ping a ball up to Xerxes. Woo!
I think the question you've got to be asking yourself. So Ten Hag's been there. What? This is his third season, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is his third season. So what he's done in 3 years, he's spent 709 million in 3 years. Arteta spent not much more in the 6 years that he's been at Arsenal, and Arsenal are in a far better place than what Man United are now. But do you think Man United now as a football club are in a worse place than what Arsenal ever were?
Yes, I do, but not for the same reasons that you might think. Arsenal Football Club is a club that, when they went invincible and everything, they needed to build this new ground and everything else. So Arsenal was at a point where they were being restricted from transfer business. So therefore, there was a time where they couldn't buy anyone because the money was going into the ground. Manchester United Football Club is the complete opposite. They've had money available to them and they haven't succeeded. But moving forward, if you're talking about Manchester United Football Club, where they want to build this new ground, they want to spend £50 million on the development of the training complex, they want to do up Old Trafford so that the women can play it. That's going to have effects on the football pitch. They're not going to be able to do all of this stuff and spend willy-nilly on the football pitch. So the problem with Manchester United is, if they carry on with their progression of everything else that needs to be fixed, it's going to affect them on the pitch. It's as simple as that. They're going to have a fall off on the pitch. And the players that they've brought in, if they would have brought in quality players that had a longer lasting effect with a direction of the club, and these players come in to play the Man United way, they would probably have enough to weather the storm while they sort out the other things. But they haven't. They haven't got a striker at the club. There's not a striker at that club. Like Xerxes is not a striker. Hoyland is not really a striker. Not a out and out striker that you need to be at Manchester United to play up top on your own. They're still bits of kids.
They would probably look to sell Mainu for big money in a few years to help pay for it and get 100% revenue. Yeah, I can't disagree with that, to be fair. Carries on the way he's going to be at Real Madrid before you know it anyway.
I don't think that's true, though. I don't think that's
What?
true because you say that they would probably sell him. This is the same club that could have sold Rashford to PSG for big money when he's not performing in a Man United shirt. And Man United stance is we don't want to sell homegrown players. So I don't think that a Kobe Mainu will go.
So I had this argument earlier, right, with someone. Did PSG ever put in a substantial bid for Rashford, or was it just all interest? Because I can't
believe they
remember.
did put a trans.
I can't remember them putting in a solid bid.
I believe they did. I believe they did put a bid in, and Man United said that it wasn't that he wasn't for sale.
Oh, it says everything you need to know, but yeah, I so who?
Regardless of if they did or if they didn't, yeah. Let's be honest, yeah. Let's be real. How football works. If you want a player out, or if an agent wants their player out, they will approach clubs, won't they? They will do the naughty and they will contact people. So whatever way you look at it, whether Man United would have contacted PSG or whether the agent would have contacted PSG, either way, you know, Rashford should have been made aware that Rashford was for sale, and if everyone was aware that Rashford was for sale, unless you're asking for stupid money for him, there will always be another mug out there that would have bought him. Like, you know.
So, Doc, say Ten Hag goes next Monday because they've been beaten the week and they've lost to Villa, and I know we're talking hypothetically. Who? I don't want who. Yeah, like, who do you think Man United will go and get in?
I was just speaking to a Manchester United fan just before I came on, and I don't know how accurate this is because I don't see how this is logical. But allegedly, excuse me, allegedly, because he signed a new contract, it's going to cost £17 million to sack him. So if that's true, which I can't see being true personally, I don't see how that's possible. But if that's true and it's going to cost £17 million to sack him, then they're not bringing no one in because they ain't got the money to do so, which means Ruud van Nistelrooy would get the job.
Yeah. Owen says, I hear Mbappe agreed to move to Liverpool, but it didn't happen in 2022. Yeah, that's what's being said. How true that is, though, I don't know. And Matty says that Rashford would be good in an attacking team 100%. Put Rashford under someone like Ange, you'll see a different player. There you go.
I agree. I totally agree. I think
that.
Rashford. I was getting excited when Rashford was being linked with Arteta. I actually thought that he would do well under Arteta, and I thought that he would do good in an Arsenal team. So I was actually getting quite excited when he was being linked. And lo and behold, they were linked with Rashford. They got Sterling. So
I wouldn't be surprised if.
But with regards to that Mbappe thing, I hear Mbappe agreed to move to Liverpool, but it didn't happen in 2022. I didn't think that Liverpool fans and people associated with Liverpool read the Sun newspaper. I thought they boycotted it a long time ago. But if you generally believe that Liverpool Football Club have got the money to pay Mbappe's wage, then I can't help you, my friend. I cannot help you at all. But one thing I can assure you, Mbappe will never ever step foot in the Premier League because his wages will be too high, and the team that signs him will be a financial fair play, like literally blessing. They'll be on your doorstep quicker than you can say abracadabra, and you will get points deduction.
Johnson's better than Mbappe with laughing emojis. And also in 2022, they would have to have had a transfer fee, and they wouldn't have been able to afford that either. Right, Doc, we've got the last couple of seconds in this. I've got a question for you, and I want you to answer it honestly. You've answered some of it, but I want you to answer the rest of it. 3 things that you would like to see changed with the setup of VAR.
3 things I'd like to see change with the VAR. I'd like VAR to be able to interject with every single decision on a football pitch. None of this clear and obvious malarkey. I would like VAR to interject on every single decision. I would like VAR to act quicker than what it's taken at the moment, because I still think there's too much dilly dallying, too much faffing. But again, I think the concept is like the way VAR is set up. If they're allowed to interject with every single thing that happens, I think the things could be dealt with a lot quicker anyway. And I also think VAR should be allowed to interject with regards to retrospective things. So, like yellow cards, I think VAR should be able to say to a referee, "You've missed that one. You need to book him," etc. So, yeah, ultimately, in a nutshell, VAR should be able to interject in every single decision, and I think that the world would be a better place if they did.
Just
Can
before
I
we
ask you the
close that,
same question?
I'd just scrap it, mate. You know my opinion, mate. I don't want to see anything change. Just want to scrap it. I would have been one of them teams that says, you know what, let's back Wolves here. James says, I thought they was meant to talk to the fans. Doc, can you just
They're
explain a
not.
little bit about
They
that,
was
because
never
it's quite.
ever they was never ever talking to the fans. What they were doing is putting the decision on the board so the fans knew what was happening.
Yeah,
What do you
but
want them to do? Do you want them to go around the ground, sit next to you and go, "Hello, mate, just to let you know I'm doing this decision"? Like,
so
referees ain't there to talk to fans. Referees are there to referee and officiate a football match.
I do know that they
Fans need
are.
to know their role at football. You're there to watch the game and enjoy the game. You have no involvement in the game. Your opinion is completely invalid during the game. You're just a fan. You're there for to be entertained, and that's it.
I
Referees
think
don't owe you an explanation.
I think what he's trying to say is do you know, like in rugby, where once it goes to the video referee, they can hear what the referee is saying to the VAR.
Yeah, but
And
why?
I know they are looking at bringing that in, but there is a few teething problems.
Yeah, but they won't bring it in. They won't bring it in because
That's
the
funny.
reason why they bring it in is, when you watch something on a Monday, when we all watch it on a Monday now, and these fans are infuriated with what happened on the Saturday. If they do it on a Saturday, you idiot fans will be waiting in the car park. You know, you'll be waiting in the car park, wanting to see what car he gets into. It will never happen because it jeopardizes them. It puts them at risk.
Matty says, I think VAR should be allowed to give another yellow card.
Yeah.
Well, I think if they were allowed to give another yellow card, there'd have been a few more this weekend. And the tweet that put up 30 minutes later in the stadium is shocking. That tweet that put up for, I don't get what he's talking about, Joe.
No, I'm assuming he means the VAR board that goes up, but I'm not sure.
But anyway, Doc, do you want to tell everyone about Thursday night?
Yeah, happily. So, anyone that's new here or anyone that's missed the memo, we have a spin off show to this podcast, the Prime Premier League podcast. On Thursday nights, we have branched out to do a spin off show, which is called the Prime Premier League Podcast London Edition. This is where me, a Crystal Palace fan, Big P, a West Ham fan, Matty Kerr in the chat, a Spurs fan, and a friend of ours, Wes, who's an Arsenal fan, come together and we talk everything London related. So if you are interested in your London football, or even if you're interested in football as a whole, and you just want to come and interact, and you want to have your say, that's where we will be. That is the show that goes out on this same channel at 8:30 Thursday nights, where, like I said, there's 4 of us. You get 4 different perspectives. You get 4 different opinions. There's a lot more banter involved because obviously there's bragging rights at stake. And to be quite honest, unlike me, the other 3 are deluded. So, it's for a good show. So if you want to see a bit of banter, and you want to see delusion at its finest, tune in and listen to these 3 wafflers and what they've got to say about their clubs.
I'm gunning for Matty this week. I must admit, after his comments today, I'm gunning for him. But will we leave that till
I'm
Thursday?
coming from at the Thursday night show. Just a little sneak preview for all of you newbie. I am gunning for the Spurs fan who had the audacity to tell me that they are a prime Real Madrid who absolutely destroyed a prime Barcelona. That was the perception he was giving me based on Spurs beating a very, very weak Man United team. So I'm absolutely gunning for him. And I'm also gunning for the Arsenal fan because of the fact A, he supports Arsenal, and B, their club has benefited from a lot of decisions this week. And I want to hear him have the same energy that he would have had when Arsenal had decisions go against them. So, yeah, that's what we're coming for. Fireworks Thursday night where these two get it.
All right, Doc. Thank you for another great show, and I will catch up with you soon. Have
No
a good
worries,
night,
buddy.
mate.
Take it easy.